Elena Carter thought maybe, just maybe, if she let go, she'd finally find silence. She gripped the edge of the bridge, fingers clamped around the slick, freezing steel. The city behind her didn't care. It thundered on, loud and alive, as if she'd already vanished. Down below, the river rolled in endless black, swallowing up the broken glimmers of streetlights. Wind clawed through her jacket, but the cold barely touched her. Hurt had already hollowed her out. Her family took everything. Her money. Her dignity. Her future. Now her freedom too. 23. She should have been thinking about college, about love, about scraping by and finding hope. Instead, she was running from the place that was supposed to be home, but felt more like a cage. Kindness was weakness there. Blood meant nothing. She still heard her stepfather's voice in her head, thick with booze and self-pity. You owe us, Elena. After everything we've done for you. Everything they'd done to her. Sold her. Treated her like she was nothing but property. Her stepsister's laughter was even worse. So casual. So cruel. Like Elena was a problem and now, finally, someone had solved it. Rain stung her eyes, mixing with tears she couldn't stop. She looked down, heart squeezing tight as the awful truth hit her. No one was coming. No one ever would. So she leaned forward. Gravity took her. The world shot up in a blur of wind and panic. Her stomach dropped. Her heart hammered. Fear finally cut through the numbness, sharp and real. For a split second she wished she hadn't done it. Not because she wanted to live, but because dying hurt. Then everything stopped. No water. No darkness. Instead, arms snapped around her waist, strong as iron, yanking her out of freefall so fast her breath whooshed out. She choked, dangling in midair. Elena's eyes flew open. She was floating. Hundreds of feet above the river. A man held her easily as if gravity didn't matter to him. He hovered in the rain, black coat flaring around him like wings woven from midnight. Water slid off his shoulders, never soaking in. His face was sharp and pale, almost ancient, carved from stone, and his eyes burned. Not with light but with heat. Deep, endless, like coals that never went out. She started shaking, brain refusing to make sense of what she saw. Let me go, she whispered, tears streaking down her cheeks. Please. Just let me fall. His arms tightened, not enough to hurt, but enough to make her know she wasn't going anywhere. His stare pinned her, cutting through every last bit of fear and hopelessness, right to the broken place inside her chest. You think death is an escape? His voice was low, calm. Scary, but not because he raised it. He didn't need to. Elena swallowed, throat burning. I don't care anymore. Something shifted in his face. Not pity. Not mercy. Interest. You jumped instead of letting them own you. She caught her breath. I belong to no one. For a moment nothing moved. Rain fell between them. The city noise faded and the world seemed to hold its breath. He leaned closer, so near she felt the cold of his breath. You entered my world when your family took my money, he said softly. You don't get to die unless I say so. Her heart nearly stopped. Who are you? She managed. His eyes flared, red as spilled wine. I am King Lucien Nocturne, he said. And you just jumped out of my reach. Suddenly the world streaked upward. Elena screamed. The city blurred, lights smearing away, then, solid ground slammed beneath her feet. Steel beams. Rang. And a man standing there, frozen in terror. The collector. Her stepfather's man. Lucien landed without a sound and set Elena down, almost gentle, even though his face stayed cold. He stepped in front of her, blocking her from the collector, but never took his eyes off her. You failed, Lucien said, voice steady. The collector dropped to his knees. Please, my king. Lucien lifted a hand. The collector dropped out cold before he hit the ground. Elena stared, shaking so hard she could barely stand. She crumpled, but Lucien caught her again, this time softer. You'd rather die than be owned, he said, looking at her like she was a mystery he'd waited a lifetime to solve. She nodded. Yes. Something old and restless flickered in his eyes. Interesting, he murmured. He leaned in and his next word was barely a breath. Sleep. It slid over her mind, gentle as velvet. Fear faded. Her thoughts slowed. The last thing she felt was being lifted, carried not like a captive but like something precious. Something worth saving. Elena woke up in silk. Soft. Cool. Expensive. Elena shot upright, panic crashing through her chest. She took in the room, huge, shadowy, with just enough light from a chandelier overhead, sparkling like it had stolen a piece of the night sky. Heavy velvet curtains shut out the world. The bed underneath her? Bigger than her entire childhood apartment. She was alive. But she wasn't free. And this place? It wasn't home. A woman waited by the door, standing so straight it looked uncomfortable. Her face gave nothing away. "You're awake," she said, voice smooth, almost bored. "Good. The king doesn't like wasting resources." Elena gripped the sheets, her heart pounding. "Where am I?" The woman nodded just a bit. "Nocturne estate. You're under royal protection." Protection. That word didn't sound real. Felt like a joke. "From who?" Elena forced out. The woman's mouth pressed into a thin line. "From the world that broke you," she said quietly. "And from the man who saved you." The doors at the far end of the room swung open without a sound. Lucien Nocturne walked in. No crown. No throne. But the power around him was impossible to ignore, like the air itself bent toward him. He looked right at her. Red eyes, sharp and strange, but for a second the edge softened. Just a little. Just enough to be dangerous. "You jumped," he said, voice low. "And lived." He closed the distance between them, his presence swallowing the space. "So now," the Vampire King went on, "your life belongs to fate." He stopped, studied her, and then his voice dropped almost to a whisper. "And fate brought you to me." Elena didn't get much sleep. Silk sheets, strange ceiling covered in old symbols, it didn't matter. Her dreams still broke apart, falling, laughter echoing, hands grabbing her wrists. She jerked awake, gasping, her fingers digging into the mattress like she was back on the bridge, barely hanging on. The room just sat there, silent. Way too silent. No cars rumbling by. No sirens. Not even the usual shouting from outside. Just a fireplace she hadn't seen before, popping softly, shadows crawling over the walls. The air smelled like pine and old stone, and under that, something sharp and metallic. Blood. Her stomach twisted at the thought. She pulled her knees up to her chest and sat there, hugging herself. This place wasn't a dream. And the man who brought her here? Definitely not human. A soft knock broke the quiet. She didn't get a chance to answer. The door opened anyway. A young woman walked in. She looked tense, face blank, wearing a dark uniform with silver trim. Her hands stayed folded as if she didn't trust them. "My name's Mira," she said. "I'm here to help you." "Help me with what?" Elena asked, trying to keep her voice steady. Mira paused. "Not long, just enough to notice." "Surviving," she said. That didn't help. Later, after the sun slipped behind the mountains, Mira led her through the estate. Elena noticed right away how the staff moved, quiet, careful, a little too respectful. Everyone watched their step, and nobody laughed or spoke unless someone asked them something first. And everyone, without fail, steered clear of the tall figures in black drifting through the halls like shadows come to life. Vampires. Some looked like nightmares. Others could have stepped out of a painting. All of them felt dangerous. Elena tried to disappear, kept her head down, hands knotted tight, every nerve screaming that she didn't belong. Her shoes sounded too loud on the marble. The dress felt wrong, too nice for someone who'd been cleaning diner tables not long ago. She heard whispers as she passed. "She's human. Why is she here?" "The king brought her himself." "She smells like fear." Every word hit her hard. They reached the dining hall, a massive room long enough for 100 people, glowing under red chandeliers that didn't need fire. At the far end, on a raised platform, sat King Lucien Nocturne. He wasn't eating. He never did. He just watched. From the second Elena walked in, his red eyes found her. He didn't look away. The whole room changed, conversations died, laughter vanished like someone cut a wire. Elena froze. Her body wanted to run. She walked forward anyway, one step at a time. Her legs shook, but she kept moving. She remembered the bridge. Remembered choosing the unknown over surrender. She didn't bow. Lucien's eyebrow twitched just barely. "Interesting. Come closer," he said. His voice didn't need to get loud. The whole room went quiet, so quiet she could hear the fireplace again somewhere far off. Elena did what he asked, stopping a few feet away. She forced herself to meet his eyes. Up close he was overwhelming, old power wrapped in cold beauty. And under the fear something else stirred. Curiosity. "Do you know where you are?" Lucien asked. "A place I don't belong," Elena said. A ripple moved through the room. Lucien watched her like he was reading a book only he could see. He noticed the bruises she tried to hide. The tired way she stood. The stubbornness burning under her fear. "You belong where you choose to stand," he told her. "And you're standing here." Before Elena could answer, another woman stepped forward. Tall, striking, dangerous. Her dress looked like liquid ruby, her skin nearly glowing, her smile sharp enough to cut. "Your Majesty," she said, sugar-sweet. "May I speak freely?" Lucian didn't even glance at her. "You always do, Serafina." Serafina turned her gaze on Elena, slow and cold. "With respect," she said, "this human's upsetting your court. She's weak. Fragile. She'll get us all killed." Elena's face burned, but she stayed quiet. Lucian finally looked at Serafina. "And yet," he replied, calm as winter, "she chose death over chains." Serafina rolled her eyes. "That was stupid." "No," Lucian said softly. "It was brave." The room stilled. Serafina's smile slipped. Lucian stood. That tiny movement made every vampire in the room straighten up. He walked down from the dais and stopped right in front of Elena. She could feel the cold coming off him, controlled but there. "You were hurt," he said quietly. "By people who should have protected you." Elena swallowed hard and gave a small nod. "You were sold," he went on, his voice turning dangerous. "Treated like a thing." Her fists tightened. Lucian's eyes burned. "That stops now." He turned and faced the court. "Elena Carter is under my protection," the Vampire King said. "Anyone who hurts her, directly or not, answers to me." Gasps bounced off the walls. Serafina's face turned to stone. Lucian glanced at Elena. "You'll work," he said. "But not as property. Not as prey. As a guest under my rule." She just stared, floored. "Why?" He faltered just for a second. "Because," he finally said, "kindness in darkness doesn't come often." Their eyes caught and held. Something wild and dangerous, and honestly kind of beautiful, settled between them. Later, Elena got a job in the infirmary. Nothing dramatic, just cleaning. At first it felt like a relief. Then she spotted a young vampire boy on a cot, skin gray, breath barely there. Nobody moved to help him. "They say he won't last the night," a servant murmured. "Poison's moving fast." Elena drifted closer, feeling panic clamp down on her chest. She knew these signs. Her mother had died like this. Before she really thought it through, she rolled up her sleeves. "Move," she said, not loud but sharp. The servants gawked. "What are you doing?" one whispered, suspicious. "Saving him," she shot back. She grabbed herbs, crushed and mixed them like she'd done 1,000 times before. Shifted the boy's body, eased his breathing, little things the human kind of care vampires ignored. A few minutes in, Lucian stormed in, drawn by the commotion. He stopped, staring. The boy was breathing steady now. A bit of color had crept back into his cheeks. Lucian turned to Elena, eyes wide. "What did you do?" he demanded. She blinked up at him, caught off guard. I helped." He just looked at her, almost like he'd never really seen her before. Very quietly, almost in awe, he said, "That's my son." Everything stopped. Even Elena's heart. The words, "That is my son," slammed into the room. No one breathed. Elena felt her face go cold. The truth hit her all at once. The boy on the bed wasn't just another patient. He was royal. Untouchable. And she'd laid hands on him. Her knees almost buckled. I didn't know," she stammered, stepping back like the air itself had turned hostile. "I swear I would never." Lucian lifted a hand. It was a tiny gesture, but it cut through the room like a blade. He didn't look at her. He just watched his son, whose chest finally rose and fell in a steady, living rhythm. For a while, Lucian didn't say a word. He simply stood there, staring. No one dared move. The tension was thick enough to choke on. Servants froze. Physicians looked everywhere but at the king. Even Serafina, trailing in behind Lucian, kept quiet, her red lips pressed thin. At last Lucian turned to Elena. Slow. Measured. "You recognize the poison," he said. Elena nodded, barely finding her voice. "My mother, she died from something like this." The symptoms were the same. Lucian's jaw clenched. "You used human remedies? Breathing, positioning, plants?" "Yes," she said, swallowing her throat tight. "They teach you those things when you can't afford real doctors." Something dangerous flickered in his face. Not anger. Respect. "You saved him," Lucian said, voice low. "When my own physicians failed." A murmur ran through the room, shock, disbelief, maybe even envy. Serafina stepped forward, sharp and cold. "Your Majesty, with respect, coincidence isn't competence. Human methods aren't reliable." Lucian's eyes snapped to her. "Leave," he said, voice like ice. Serafina stiffened. "What?" "I said," Lucian repeated, each word heavy, "leave. Now." For a moment, real fear crossed her perfect face. She bowed, stiff and silent, and left. Her heels echoed through the hall. Lucien let out a slow breath and looked back at Elena. "Stay with him tonight," he said. "If anything changes, call me." Elena nodded. "Of course." He paused, then almost softly, "You have my gratitude." That stunned her more than anything else. A king. A vampire. Thanking her. That night, Elena didn't sleep. She sat by the boy's bed, wiping sweat from his brow, whispering to him when his breath caught. She told simple stories, about late-night diners, her mother's cooking, counting stars from her old window. She never saw Lucien in the doorway, but he watched her for a long time, silent and still, taking in something he hadn't seen in ages. Kindness with no strings attached. Love without power. At dawn, the boy opened his eyes. "Elena," he whispered. She stopped breathing for a second. "Yes, I'm here." Lucien was at his side in a heartbeat. "Father," the boy murmured, a small smile breaking through. She chased the shadows away. Lucien closed his eyes just for an instant. His mask slipped. Word tore through the estate. The humans saved the prince. Not everyone was happy about it. The next days felt colder. Elena saw it in the stares, heard it in the sharpened whispers, felt it in the way servants hesitated around her. Some bowed. Some glared. Everywhere she went, respect and resentment tangled in the air. Then the summons came, from the lower halls, where the nobles met for matters beneath the king's notice. A trap. She knew the second she stepped inside. The room was round, stone walls carved with ancient runes. Blue candlelight threw strange shadows. Serafina waited in the center, flanked by two ancient vampires, their eyes glittering with cruel delight. "You've grown bold," Serafina purred. "Walking these halls like you belong." "I was invited," Elena said quietly. Serafina smiled. "So was poison once." The elders laughed. "You think saving the prince makes you special?" Serafina went on. "You're still human. Weak. Temporary." Elena squared her shoulders. "I never said otherwise." "Then kneel," Serafina ordered. Silence crashed down. Elena's heart hammered, but she stayed upright. "I won't," she said. One elder stepped close, voice heavy with scorn. "Know your place." "I do," Elena answered. "It's standing." The air pressed in, crushing. Then the doors burst open. Lucien strode in. The whole room went cold. "What," he asked, soft and deadly, "is happening here?" Everyone froze. Serafina recovered first. "We were educating your guest." Lucien's gaze locked on Elena. She stood pale but unbroken. His eyes darkened. "Did she threaten you?" he asked. Elena hesitated. Lucien waited. "Yes," she said. That's all it took." Lucien faced the nobles again, his tone steady but sharp. "Apologize." The elders went rigid. "Your Majesty." "Apologize," Lucien said again, "or leave my kingdom." "Your choice." One after another they bowed. Serafina's hands shook as she lowered her head. "I apologize." Lucien moved in close, his voice just for her. "If you ever touch her again," he whispered, "you'll beg me to make it quick." Serafina's face went pale. Lucien looked at Elena. "Come." He led her out himself. Later that night, the two of them stood outside, the forest and moon spread out below. The quiet between them was thick, not awkward, just full. Elena spoke up. "You didn't have to do that." Lucien looked at her. "Yes, I did." "Why?" He searched her face, fighting something inside himself. "Because," he said almost too softly, "you remind me what power is for." Elena's chest squeezed tight. And for the first time she didn't see a monster. She saw a lonely king. Peace never really lasted at Nocturne Estate. It just went quiet for a while. The morning after Lucien defended Elena in front of the nobles, something shifted in the castle. She felt it in her bones. The halls got quieter. Servants watched her, eyes flicking away when she looked up. Doors closed a little too fast. Any smile vanished the second she turned her back. The fear hadn't left. It just found a new target. And that made things dangerous. Elena kept her head down, working in the infirmary and the library, doing whatever tasks needed doing. She didn't talk much. She listened. She avoided the upper halls where the nobles gathered. She'd learned that survival often meant being invisible. But invisibility had given up on her. That evening, as the sun dipped and the castle edged toward darkness, an alarm shattered the hush. A deep horn sounded, once, twice. Emergency. Elena froze. Guards rushed past, armor clanging, faces set with panic. Mira grabbed her arm. "Come with me," Mira hissed, fear leaking into her voice. What's happening? Elena managed. It's the prince, Mira said. He's collapsed. Elena's heart plummeted. They ran. The infirmary was chaos. Physicians crowded the bed, voices colliding, hands flying. The young prince lay still, skin ghostly pale, and now dark veins spread across his throat. Poison. Stronger this time. Lucien stood at the foot of the bed. He was terrifying. The air around him seemed to pulse, shadows stretching in odd shapes along the walls. His eyes blazed red, light bleeding into the stone under his boots. Elena, he snapped. She stepped forward right away. What happened? She asked, already reaching for the boy's wrist. Lucien's gaze tracked her hands. He was given wine, Lucien said. Nightshade ash and silver resin. Elena's stomach twisted. That mix, she started. Is fatal, Lucien finished. Even for vampires. She looked up at him. We've got minutes. Lucien nodded. Do what you did before. Elena worked fast, hands shaking. She tried to steady the boy's breathing, to draw out the poison. Everything she knew. Nothing worked. The poison was too clever. Too deliberate. Suddenly, a voice cut through the panic. This is pointless. Serafina stepped forward, face blank. The human can't save him again, she said. And isn't it strange how often she's around him? The room stilled. Elena froze. What are you saying? Lucien's voice was almost gentle, but it felt sharp. Serafina's eyes flicked to Elena. He fell ill soon after she arrived. Then she miraculously cures him. Now he's poisoned again and she's the constant. Elena's breath caught. That's not. Silence, snapped one of the elders. Whispers broke out. She was alone with him. She knows the symptoms. Humans are weak, jealous. Elena's chest tightened. Fear coiled around her heart. Lucien stared at her. Not accusing, just searching. Elena, he said quietly. Did you hurt my son? That question hurt more than any threat. No, she whispered. I never would. For a second, everything held its breath. Then the prince convulsed. Elena didn't think. She grabbed a silver scalpel and slashed her palm. Stop, someone cried. Blood welled up, bright and hot. She pressed her bleeding hand to the prince's lips. Drink, she whispered. Lucien's eyes widened. Human blood was poison to young vampires. But Elena remembered her mother once said blood carried intent, not just chemistry. The prince gasped. He swallowed. The dark veins faded. His body stopped shaking. His breath calmed. The room fell silent. Elena dropped to her knees, dizzy, vision swimming. Lucien caught her before she hit the floor. He glanced down at her bloody hand, his grip unsteady. You risked your life, he said. I'd do it again, Elena whispered. The prince opened his eyes, blinking. Father, he murmured, she tastes like sunlight. Lucien closed his eyes. When he looked up, the room froze. Who did this? He demanded. No one spoke. Lucien's gaze locked on Serafina. Her mask slipped. Everyone out, he ordered. Once the room emptied, his voice turned cold. You set her up. Serafina gave a weak laugh. You choose a human over your own kind? I choose the truth, Lucien answered. Shadows swelled. Serafina screamed as the guards dragged her away. That night, Elena sat alone in her room, hand bandaged, heart heavy. A soft knock at the door. Lucien slipped inside. You could have died, he said. So could your son, Elena replied. Silence hung between them, heavy and uncertain. Lucien finally broke it. I misjudged you, he said. I won't do it again. He paused, voice dropping. You're safe here. I promise. Elena's eyes met his, shining with tears. How long? She whispered. He didn't look away. As long as I'm alive. Serafina's exile rattled the vampire world. She wasn't just a favorite, she was old blood, tied to the strongest families. Her banishment wasn't subtle. It was a message. The vampire king picked a human over centuries of tradition. Kingdoms don't forget things like that. Elena felt the fallout right away. The whispers vanished. Not because they'd accepted her, but because no one dared to speak. Doors opened wherever she went. People bowed deeper. Servants finally saw her, not as someone to ignore, but as someone they had to respect, even if that respect felt careful, almost nervous. Cruelty never rattled her like this did. She hated feeling afraid. All she wanted was peace. Lucien noticed the shift in her. You seem uneasy, he said one night as they walked through the gardens. Moonlight spilled through the tall black pines, frost crunching with every step. The air stung, clear and cold. Elena's voice was low. I don't like what I am to them now, a reason to keep quiet. Lucien stopped. No. You're becoming visible. That's different. She hugged herself. Being seen isn't always safe. He studied her face, tracing the faint scar on her cheek, saw how tired she still looked, even here, even safe. You've survived worse, he said. Long before you met me. You just had to do it alone. She glanced up at him. And now? Lucien paused, searching for the answer. Now you don't have to. That night, Lucien dreamt, something he hadn't done in centuries. He saw fire swallowing everything. Screams. A throne slick with blood. Elena stood alone in the ruins, calling out for him. He woke before dawn, breath sharp and ragged, something raw and human twisting inside him. Fear. Not for himself. For her. The next evening, news came from the outer territories. Elena's family had been found. Her stepfather had run to the wrong people after blowing his deal with the Nocturne estate. Debt collectors trashed the apartment. Her stepsister was missing. Lucien watched Elena read the report. Her hands shook. They did this because of me, she whispered. His jaw clenched. No. They did it because they thought you didn't matter. Tears welled in her eyes. I left. I didn't stop them. Lucien moved closer. You survived them. That's not the same as leaving them behind. She laughed, a bitter, broken sound. You didn't hear what they said. Or how they laughed when they sold me. Lucien's eyes turned cold. If they'd gotten away with it, they wouldn't be breathing now. She stared at him. You'd kill them? For hurting you? His voice was flat. Without a second thought. It should have scared her. Instead, it warmed something cracked inside. I don't want revenge, she said, voice barely above a whisper. I just want this to stop. Lucien nodded, slow and sure. Then it stops my way. Days later, the Vampire Council demanded Elena's removal. She's a liability, the elders said. Enemies will use her against us. Lucien faced them, unmoving. She's not a weakness. She's a reminder. A reminder of what? One elder scoffed. Lucien's voice cut like steel. Why kings exist. The council voted. Elena would have to leave for her own safety. That night, Lucien returned to her rooms, face unreadable. They want you gone, he said. Her heart sank, but she nodded. I get it. I don't, he said. He paced, then stopped. There's a place beyond the borderlands. Hidden. Protected. You'd be safe there. She met his eyes. And you? He didn't answer. The silence stung more than if he'd said no. She swallowed. I don't want to be protected from you. I want you to trust me. He froze. No one had ever asked him that. I'm not gentle, he said. Not kind. Not safe. She stepped closer. Neither was my world, and I survived. His control slipped. He reached out, stopped short of her face. You make me hesitate, he said, voice raw. That's dangerous for a king. She smiled, sad but sure. Maybe never hesitating is worse. They just stood there, caught in breath and moonlight. Lucien pulled his hand back. You'll leave at dawn. She nodded. Tears slipped down her cheeks. She packed in silence that night. At dawn, Lucien waited at the gates. No guards. No audience. Just them. Thank you, Elena whispered. For saving me. Lucien swallowed hard. You saved me first. She hesitated, then gave him words he'd never forget. I don't belong to you. But if you ever need me, I'll come. Before he could answer, she turned and walked away. He watched her disappear into the trees. For the first time in centuries, the Vampire King understood what it meant to lose something he wanted to keep. Elena didn't cry when she crossed the borderlands. She'd run out of tears long ago. Lucien's sanctuary was almost too peaceful. A stone cottage tucked between pines, ancient wards flickering faintly after dark. Servants checked in from a distance, polite, silent, never daring to get too close. She was safe, yes. But isolation was just a different kind of cage. Every night, Elena stood outside beneath a sky full of stars, hugging her coat tight, and wondered if Lucien ever looked up at the same sky. Was sending her away as hard for him as he pretended? Or did he let her go without a second thought? Weeks drifted by. Then trouble found her, just like it always did. Lucien's enemies finally figured it out. The Vampire King had a weakness. They came at dawn. Elena was out gathering firewood when the ward shattered, sounded like glass breaking. The whole forest went silent. No birds, no wind, nothing. She spun around and saw them. Hunters. Not human, not vampire, something in between. Mercenaries bred to kill immortals, skin marked with burned runes, silver-threaded chains in their hands. Their leader grinned at her, pleased with himself. "Run," he said. "I like a chase." Elena didn't scream. She just ran. Branches whipped past, her lungs burned, the forest blurred. In her head, Lucien's voice, "You survived worse long before me." Then a net of silver light slammed her to the ground. Bang. Blinding, ripping pain. They tied her up fast. No time to fight. "You'll make a great message," the leader told her. "Kings listen when their hearts are on the line." Somewhere far away, Lucien felt it. The bond he'd never admitted to ripped open, pain stabbing through his chest. He dropped to one knee in the throne room. Shadows burst out, marble cracked. "Elena," he gasped. The court went dead silent. Lucien got up. "No explanation. The king is leaving the realm," he said. "Anyone who follows dies." He vanished. The hunters never made it far. Lucien came down from the sky like wrath itself, night twisting around him. Trees snapped. Shadows howled. His eyes burned brighter than fresh blood. "You touched what's mine," he said, voice soft as a knife. The hunters didn't even get to beg. When it ended, the forest was quiet again, except for Elena, gasping for air. Lucien dropped beside her, tore the chains apart with his bare hands. He held her so gently, afraid she might disappear. "I told you to stay away," she whispered. His voice shook. "I told you I'd protect you." "You did," she managed. "You came." He pressed his forehead to hers, centuries of control falling away. "I can't rule a world without you," he said. "I tried. I failed." Elena smiled, tears slipping down her cheeks. "Good." Back at the castle, justice came fast. The elders who plotted lost everything. The ones who paid the hunters were exiled, or worse. No one shouted. Just happened. Final. Complete. Lucien stood before the court, Elena at his side. "No one threatens her again," he said. "She isn't my weakness. She's my choice." He turned to her. "I'm not offering you a throne," he told her. "Just truth. I'll walk away from all of it if you ask." She took his hand. "I won't ask you to stop being king," she said. "Just don't stop being yourself when you're with me." Lucien smiled, real and honest. A human smile. "I love you," he said. "Not because you need me. Because you never did." Elena stepped closer. "Then stand with me." She didn't become queen that night. She became something better. His equal.